Picture this: you're standing naked in the freezing courtyard of the forbidden city, the cold stone biting into the soles of your feet. You're no older than 10. Around you, the palace is waking slowly, the red glow of dawn crawling over the curved roofs and dragon carvings. The eunuchs hold you down, not cruelly, but without compassion either, just duty. They do this every day. The knife gleams in the morning light. One quick cut, and your life as a man ends before it ever truly began. You try to scream, but the pain is so total, so complete, it drowns everything else. You lose your voice before you even cry out. That was your first day in the inner court. The day you stopped being a boy. The day you started becoming something else entirely. They give you a name that isn't yours. Names are dangerous in the palace. Real names tie you to the world outside, to parents, villages, and lives you will never see again. So you become someone else, a clean slate, a shadow stitched from silence and obedience. The senior eunuchs assign you to the laundry quarters, where steam clouds the air like ghosts. You scrub imperial robes for hours, the golden threads catching on your skin until it bleeds. You speak only when spoken to. You smile when asked. You learn not to meet anyone's eyes, especially not the emperor's, especially not hers, because in the Ming court, beauty is as dangerous as ambition, and you, young, androgynous, with skin like porcelain and eyes like moonlight, are beautiful in a way that draws attention you don't want. Day after day you kneel beside vats of boiling water, wrists raw from lie, while gossip swirls above like steam. Which concubine has fallen from favor? Which general is losing a war in the north? Which eunuch has vanished for speaking the wrong name aloud? You memorize every rumor because knowledge, like soap, can scour away disaster. Nights are worse, cramped dormitories, snores, coughs, muffled weeping. You find sleep only by repeating the same prayer. Forget your old life, survive the new one. Weeks pass. One evening a head eunuch pauses beside you, watching how silently you move, how your hands never tremble even when lifting cloth worth more than a farmer earns in a lifetime. He says nothing, only scribbles a note onto a bamboo tally. 3 dawns later you are told to pack. No explanation, no chance to ask questions. You follow a lantern-bearing servant through corridors that smell of cedar and camphor, until the laundry's hiss fades behind you. You don't know it yet, but your fate has shifted again, not by anything you've done, but by the way others see you. In the forbidden city, perception is power, and perception is poison. It happens on an ordinary morning. The sun hasn't yet cleared the palace walls when you step into the courtyard, carrying bundles of freshly laundered silk over your shoulder. The courtyard glows faintly with mist, making everything shimmer. You walk quietly, eyes down as you were taught. You don't notice the figure watching you from the covered balcony above. Empress Dowager Zhang. She is the most powerful woman in China, widow of the late emperor, mother of the boy king who now occupies the dragon throne. But in this moment, she's simply a woman, one with sharp eyes and a mind like polished obsidian. She watches the way you walk, the way your hands cradle silk as if it were sacred, the elegance of your movements. She doesn't look away. You feel it, then the pause in the world, the strange tightening in your chest. You glance up without meaning to. Your eyes meet. It lasts less than a second, but it rewrites your future. That night you are summoned. You've never set foot in her wing of the palace before, Everything is quieter here, richer. Lanterns glow like pearls behind intricate screens. Attendants move like whispers, gliding past you in embroidered slippers. You're led into her private quarters, a hall of gold and crimson. Incense curls in the air like writing. Behind a silk veil, she sits still, pose dangerous. You kneel, head down, hands trembling. "Look at me," she says. Her voice is cool, slow, controlled. You raise your head. She's older than you imagine, but her beauty is undiminished. The years have only carved her more finely, like jade left out in the wind. Her expression is unreadable. Her eyes are the color of smoked glass. "What is your name?" You answer with the one they gave you. "This servant is called Lin." She raises a brow. "That cannot be your real name." You don't reply. Truth here is a liability. She studies you for a long time, as if trying to remember where she's seen you before, even though you both know it was only this morning. "You are beautiful," she says, not as a compliment, as a diagnosis. You say nothing. She tilts her head. "Do you know how rare that is in a place like this?" You wait. "Do you know what beauty costs?" Now you answer, because silence might be mistaken for arrogance. "Everything." That makes her laugh. A dry sound like silk tearing. "You're clever," she says. "You may serve me now. The next days are disorienting." You are moved to new quarters, quiet, clean, close to her chambers. You're given fresh robes. Your hands no longer stink of lie. Her attendants don't speak to you except in clipped commands. You are invisible to them. At first, your tasks begin small: lighting incense, preparing ink, organizing scrolls by date. But she watches you. Always. The Empress Dowager rarely speaks when others are present. But when you are alone, she sometimes talks, not idly, not kindly, but deliberately. "You're not like the others," she tells you one night. You don't flatter, you listen. She is testing you, you know this. Every word is a wire, every silence a signal. So you listen, you nod, you serve tea perfectly. You memorize the names she drops, and the ones she avoids. You learn her rhythms. When she wants music, never too cheerful. How she prefers her hairpins, laid out from left to right, jade first, gold last. Which poems she recites when she's thinking too deeply to speak aloud. She begins calling you to her late in the evening, when the halls are empty and the air is cool. You sit silently behind her, brushing out her hair, 30 strokes exactly. Sometimes she speaks. "I was married at 15. I didn't know what power was until it touched my hand." Other times she doesn't, and you learn that those silences mean more than her stories ever could. One night she asks, "What did you want before all this?" You freeze. No one has asked you that since. Before you lie to serve the palace. She turns her head slightly, a pretty lie, but a lie. You look down. "I wanted to live," she exhales slowly. "Then you are smarter than most." She waves her hand. You bow and retreat, heart pounding. You do not see the small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. One morning, while pouring her tea, she suddenly says, "I trust you, Lin." 3 words, they hit like thunder. You bow deeply. This servant will not fail you. She looks out the window toward the imperial garden. "We'll see." Serving the Empress Dowager is like navigating a hall of mirrors. Nothing is what it seems, and every reflection can be a trap. You are no longer scrubbing silk or hauling firewood. You now live in a world of shadows and whispers, where silence is a language and obedience is armor. Her personal attendants don't like you. You can feel it in how they pass you scrolls without looking, how their voices sharpen when you're near. You're a new piece in a delicate machine, and your very presence disrupts their routines. So you watch, you memorize every corridor in her private residence, the shift patterns of her guards, the favorite dishes her kitchen prepares when she's angry, which birds sing outside her window before rain, and you learn. You learn that the Empress Dowager likes her tea lukewarm, not hot, that she prefers her letters read aloud slowly, that she never wears pearls on festival days, only gold, and that she often speaks less to test others than to protect herself. You learn how to walk beside her, not behind, not too close, not too far. You learn how to read her silence, how to pour ink exactly 2 fingers deep into the J dish. You learn to inhale gently when she sighs, so she knows you're listening, but never speak unless prompted. You become useful. One evening, she's seated behind her carved rosewood screen, dictating a reply to a southern magistrate. Her voice is cool, detached. You take the brush and write. Later that night, a head clerk is summoned and given your calligraphy. He stares at it, confused. This is the Empress Dowager's hand. She was too tired to write herself, you say. He bows, he doesn't question it. You know you've just passed a test. From then on, she calls you in when reading correspondence. You stand by her elbow as she scans the reports, taxes, crops, petitions, military unrest. She points, you annotate, she murmurs, you write. You become her pen, her second hand, her shadow. But shadows must remain invisible. You are warned not to speak of your duties, not to linger in public halls, not to let others see what you do. So you move like wind through paper walls present, but unfelt. You notice everything. Which ministers send tribute to early, which ones avoid eye contact, which guards look at her for a heartbeat too long. One afternoon she hands you a scroll without speaking. You unroll it, an edict draft naming her cousin as governor of the Central Plain. You glance at her. Her face is unreadable. He's weak. You say before you can stop yourself. She blinks slowly. Explain. You hesitate, but only for a second. He's never led troops. He's been late in responding to 3 prior dispatches. His region saw unrest last winter, and he did nothing. She's still quiet, too quiet. Then you read the correspondence. You freeze. Only when I was asked to. She waves her hand. Good. You're right. He's a fool. She takes the scroll and burns it in the brazier by her side. You exhale, not realizing you'd been holding your breath. You will read all military reports now, she says. Summarize what matters, ignore what doesn't. And just like that, your shadow grows longer, weeks pass. You learn from the clerks how to track troop movements on the court maps, from the palace astrologer, how to read eclipse tables and interpret auspicious dates, from the language tutor, how to translate Mongol ciphers. No one is teaching you directly, but you're always listening. Late at night, when the other eunuchs snore in their beds, you sit with stolen scrolls, copying characters until your wrist cramps. You whisper battle strategies to yourself under your breath, rephrasing them into elegant imperial prose. You grow smarter, sharper, more dangerous. One evening, While sorting tribute records, you uncover a subtle discrepancy, a chest of silver logged twice with two different seals. You bring it to her attention. She reads the record, nods once. The next day, the eunuch treasurer is removed from his post. You never see him again. She never mentions it. But the day after that, she gifts you a scroll case made of inlay ivory. No note, no comment, just placed beside your desk like a question that doesn't need an answer. But it isn't only skill that she values, it's your silence. One evening, as you're lighting her lanterns, she speaks softly. Do you know why I keep you so close? You hesitate. Because I'm loyal. She smiles, but it's a tired, bitter smile. No, it's because you have nothing, no father to protect, no house to honor, no ambition that reaches beyond the walls of this city. That makes you useful. That makes you mine. You bow your head. Yes, your majesty. She watches you for a long time. You could become something in this palace, or you could vanish like smoke. That depends on whether you understand your place. You nod. This servant understands. But inside, something coils tighter, because you do understand. You are not her favorite. You are her tool. And tools, no matter how sharp, are only useful until they break. The boy emperor is no longer a boy. He's 17 now, tall, sharp-faced, with eyes that carry both boredom and cruelty. He parades through the palace with the casual arrogance of someone who has never known hunger, never felt fear. The Empress Dowager still rules, of course, but his shadow grows longer each day. And one day it crosses over you. You see him first from a distance descending the steps of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, his silk robe fluttering behind him like a banner. He's laughing, surrounded by attendants who laugh half a second too late. You keep your eyes down, bow low, and step aside. But he doesn't pass. Instead, his voice slices the air. Who is this? You freeze. Someone whispers your name, the name they gave you, the only name anyone uses. The prince approaches. He stops a breath away from you. You can feel his gaze like a blade. So this is the one my mother keeps so close. You kneel. Your Highness honors the servant with his attention. He laughs, pretty words, pretty voice. He walks a slow circle around you. They say you used to be a boy. Is that true? You remain still. But you don't look like a boy, not anymore. He touches your chin. You flinch only slightly, but it's enough. He smiles wider, and then he's gone. That night you're moved from your usual quarters. No explanation, no warning, just a silent servant arriving with folded robes and a new assignment. You are to serve the emperor directly, at meals, during scroll readings, in the morning when he wakes, and again at night when he retires. It is a promotion and a punishment. You're not stupid. You know what this means. The Empress Dowager has lost some control. The prince is testing his power and using you to do it. You want to refuse, but refusal is treason in silk clothing. So you go. The first few days are ... bearable. He ignores you mostly. As you pour tea, fetch scrolls, light lanterns, he never calls you by name, just you. But you feel his eyes, always watching, especially when he thinks you're not looking. On the 5th night, you are summoned to his private study. He sits at the writing desk, robe loose, hair down. He waves a hand for the servants to leave. Only you remain. Come closer, he says. You do. He doesn't look at you. Just continues writing slowly, Deliberately you serve my mother well. This servant only obeys the throne. He chuckles. Is that what she told you to say? You say nothing. He looks up. His eyes are dark, hungry, not with desire but with power. She thinks she owns this palace. But it's mine, all of it, including you. You bow. Your Highness is the Son of Heaven. All within the empire is yours. He stands, walks to you, stops inches away, even your loyalty. You don't respond. He reaches out, touches your face gently, almost kindly, but you know better. Would you die for her? He asks. You lower your gaze. This servant was already dead the day he entered the palace. He blinks just once, then laughs. Clever, dangerous. He turns away. You may go. You are returned to your previous quarters the next morning. No one explains why, but you know. The Empress Dowager intervened. She pulled strings, whispered threats, moved unseen. You were a pawn being tested, and somehow you survived. Later that week, she calls you to her garden. No one else is present. She's seated beneath the magnolia tree, wrapped in dark silk, her expression unreadable. He touched you, she says without asking. Yes, he will again. Silence stretches between you. Then, you cannot let him think you belong to him. I don't. You say, but he wants to believe you do. You look up. Her face is colder than the stone lanterns around you. If he makes a move, you will let me know. Yes, your majesty. And if I tell you to stop him, you hesitate. I will obey. She watches you. Even if it means killing the emperor, your throat tightens. She doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. You nod, yes. That night you sit awake, staring at the ink brush beside your mat. You realize something terrifying. You meant it. You would kill for her, because she gave you a place, because she made you visible, because without her you are nothing, but also because you know how this game is played. And in this palace, loyalty isn't love, it's survival. From that day forward, you live in a world of coded glances and quiet footsteps. The Empress Dowager rarely speaks to you in public now, but when she does, every word is laced with meaning, every silence speaks louder. You're no longer just a servant. You are her agent, her instrument. And now you understand your true role. The lessons begin in secret. She summons you under the cover of moonlight, through hidden corridors only palace architects remember. In the innermost chamber of her residence beyond 7 doors, and to guards who never blink she waits by an oil lamp, surrounded by scrolls, maps, and black-lacquered boxes bound in red silk. You've been listening long enough, she says. Not, you'll begin speaking. She teaches you how to read the rhythm of the court, not through what is said, but what is not. Who delays answering edicts, who sends too many gifts, who skips ritual ceremonies without excuse. You learn how to pen letters in 5 scripts, how to forge seals with wax and lacquer, how to rewrite documents so subtly that even the original author could not tell the difference. Truth, she says one night, is ink on rice paper. All it takes is 1 drop of water to make it disappear. You learn the art of silence, the value of hesitation, how to plant rumors like seeds, and how to let suspicion do the rest. She has no shortage of enemies, ... and soon, neither do you. You pass messages to generals pretending to inspect robes, You hide coded instructions inside tribute chests. You write edicts that bear her voice, but are signed with the emperor's seal. No one suspects the eunuch in the corner. You wear invisibility like armor, but the walls begin to talk. A palace maid disappears after seeing you place a sealed letter beneath a tea tray. A scribe is found dead by the lotus pond the day after he questioned a decree you drafted. A mid-level noble who joked too openly about the dowager's little shadow suddenly falls ill and never wakes. You never touch them, never even speak to them, but they vanish, one by one, like dew under sunlight. People begin to bow more deeply than they pass you. Some won't meet your eyes at all. At night, you still sleep on a mat, still wake before dawn, but your hands now hold power greater than swords. You could destroy a man's life with a sentence, or worse, make it look like he destroyed himself. And yet you're still just a eunuch, no name, no family, no future. Sometimes, when you catch your reflection in a lacquered door, you wonder, who am I becoming? And the answer comes back, whoever she needs you to be. One evening, the Empress Dowager calls you in with no documents, no inkstone, no court business. She's seated before a low table, sipping plum wine. A second cup is already poured for you. You hesitate. Sit, she says. You do. She watches you in silence. Her face is softer in the lamplight, less mask, more memory. When I was your age, she says, I didn't speak for a year, not one word, not even to my mother. You say nothing. You know this is not a story she tells lightly. I was sent to the palace at 13, married to an emperor I'd never met, groomed to be nothing more than a womb in silk. She sips the wine, but I watched, I listened, and when the time came, I acted. That's why I'm here. That's why he's dead. She looks at you. Do you understand? You nod slowly. You survived. I did more than survive, she says. I ruled. She leans closer, and now so will you. The next morning, your name appears briefly, and without fanfare on the court registry. Not your birth name, not even Len, a new name, one chosen by her. It means shadow orchid, a delicate flower that grows in the dark and poisons its enemies. You are no longer invisible. You are hers, but power brings danger. Not from the emperor, he's still too arrogant, too unsteady, but from others, the old ministers who remember when eunuchs only cleaned floors, the foreign envoys who whisper about the whisperer, the generals who want to speak directly to the Empress Dowager, and not through a child with a pale face and soft hands. One man in particular, a senior official named Shen Leon, begins to press. He sends scrolls with sealed recommendations for your removal, complains publicly about overreach, suggests that the court is being manipulated by unseen actors. He never says your name, but everyone knows. The Empress Dowager plays a dangerous game. She says nothing, makes no move. You wait. One day, she hands you a scroll and tells you to deliver it personally to Grand Secretary Shen. You open it before you go. It's blank. A message written in absence. When you present it, Shen's lips curl in disdain. This is your doing, he sneers. One day she turn on you too. You bow. This servant only delivers what he is asked to. He tears the scroll in half. That evening he falls ill. Within 2 weeks, he's dead. Officially, a heart attack. Unofficially, a warning. The message is clear. If you threaten the orchid, beware the poison. And so the whisper's quiet for now, but something has shifted. You feel it. She speaks to you less, spends longer hours in prayer. Her hair, once raven black, has turned to frost. Her hands tremble when holding the brush. One night you ask if she's well. She smiles, but not like before. My shadow asks about the sun. She says, I must be fading. You kneel. Your majesty is strong as ever. But inside you feel it too. Winter's coming, and you have no idea what will happen when she's gone. It begins with a lie. A letter arrives at court, allegedly from a northern general, pledging loyalty to the emperor and asking for reinforcements. It bears the general's seal. The handwriting is impeccable, the tone measured, dutiful, submissive. You wrote it at her command, and when the emperor receives it, he beams with satisfaction. She still fears me, he says to his advisers. Even the generals obey. He doesn't realize the message was forged in the Empress Dowager's private chambers, on rice paper you selected yourself. He doesn't know that the seal was pressed by your hand, that the general has not written a word in weeks. He doesn't suspect. That's the power of your pen. Soon there are more letters. Some you forge entirely, others you simply revise. A missing phrase here, a change in tone there, no one questions it. The ministers still fear the dowager too much. Your handwriting becomes her voice. The court does not notice when their commands begin to echo your phrasing, when their reports are shaped not by their own convictions, but by the silent tug of your edits. You're no longer her shadow. You are her echo, sharp, endless, and everywhere. The palace changes around you. Where once you were invisible, now eyes follow you, some with awe, some with envy, some with hate. The old eunuchs bow deeper. The junior ones scramble to serve. Ministers hesitate before speaking in your presence. The emperor no longer calls you boy. He calls you the dowager's ghost. Not to your face, of course. To your face he smiles. You smile back. Your quarters are moved again. This time they are lavish. Lacquered wood, silk drapes, candles imported from the southern provinces, a private courtyard with a copond, and servants whisper your orders into existence. You dress in robes finer than any you once washed. You wear jewelry now, not gaudy, but deliberate enough to be noticed, enough to say, I am someone. At night you lie awake and try to remember the smell of soap in the old laundry rooms. You can't, and yet it's not luxury that defines your rise, it's fear. One night a young eunuch comes to you trembling, having accidentally broken a seal on a delivery from the West. He weeps at your feet, begging for mercy. You don't beat him. You don't report him. You simply say, tell me the truth next time. Lies are much harder to clean up. He nods rapidly, nearly kissing the hem of your robe. You understand then. You are no longer just serving power. You are power. But power isolates. The Empress Dowager still summons you, but less often. Her words are clipped. Her questions sharper. She watches you like she used to watch others. One evening, she says, you've grown fast. You bow because I've learned from the best. Her gaze narrows. Flattery doesn't suit you. She turns away. Be careful, Lynn. You hear what she doesn't say. I built you. I can unmake you. Still, she trusts you with more. One morning, she hands you a scroll with her personal seal and says, destroy this. Without reading it, you nod. Burn it in front of her. The flames reflect in her eyes later. You lie awake wondering what it contained. A name, a confession, a secret that could topple thrones. You will never know, and that terrifies you more than any enemy ever could. There are rumors of rebellion in the western provinces. The emperor wants to respond with troops. The empress dowager wants to delay. You write two versions of the same edict, one for the emperor, swift justice, imperial pride, military might, one for her, caution, diplomacy, preservation of resources. They both sign their versions, and the army does neither. You intercept the orders. You delay the march. You stall the letters. And when the unrest burns out on its own, both sides believe it was their wisdom that prevented bloodshed. Only you know the truth. You didn't just shape the message. You rewrote history. Whispers began again. A few brave ministers question why military movements are delayed, why the emperor's orders are misread, why the empress dowager's influence seems untouched by time. They blame each other at first, then they blame you. A court official dares to say it aloud. The eunuch wields the brush like a sword. You smile when you hear this, but you also tighten your guard. That night, the empress dowager sends for you, alone. She is seated by a single candle. Her hands shake as she pours tea. I have made you dangerous, she says. You kneel only so I could protect you. She watches you carefully, and if I asked you to step away, you pause just for a moment. That would be harder than dying. She closes her eyes, and for the first time she looks tired. When you leave her chambers, there is a note waiting on your pillow. 6 characters, no signature. You are more than what I made. You burn it, but the words remain. It begins with a mistake, not yours, theirs. A senior minister drops a scroll, nothing important, just routine grain reports. But when you bend to return it, you notice something odd. The seal is smudged, faint, imperfect. It's not real. You take the scroll to the empress dowager. She listens, silent. When you show her the wax impression, she nods slowly. Find out who else received letters this week. You do. And what you discover is worse than a forgery. It's a faction. A quiet one, growing beneath the surface of the court like mold beneath polished wood. Ministers, secretaries, even a general's aide, coordinating, whispering, plotting. And their target isn't her, it's you. You shouldn't be surprised. You're not nobility. You have no family name, no province, no lineage to legitimize your presence at court. You are a eunuch, and worse, a powerful one. To them, that's not just unnatural, it's intolerable. One of them finally says it aloud during a council meeting. With respect, Your Majesty, Minister Jia begins, bowing deeply to the Empress Dowager. It is improper for the court's internal communications to be mediated by a servant. He doesn't look at you, but everyone else does. The Empress Dowager doesn't blink. Are you accusing my servant of disloyalty? Jia smiles like a man stepping into his own trap willingly. No, Your Majesty, I'm accusing the court of complacency. Gasps echo through the chamber. The Empress Dowager's hand clenches the armrest, but she does not speak. She turns to you instead. Do you deny his implication? You look at Jia, at the men behind him. You see their smug certainty, their hunger, and you realize this isn't a test. It's a public execution dressed in words. So you answer carefully, this servant obeys the will of the throne. A quiet phrase, but dangerous, because it doesn't specify whose will. That night you are summoned not by the Empress Dowager, but by the Emperor, for the first time in over a year. His guards meet you at your quarters, say nothing, escort you in silence. His chamber is dark, no incense, no attendants, just him pacing slowly like a tiger in a too small cage. He gestures to the seat across from him. You sit. You've made many enemies, he says. You say nothing. You've ruled from the shadows long enough. He pours wine, doesn't offer you any. She made you strong, he continues, but she also made you stupid. Still, you stay silent. He leans forward. You think you're the only one who can write. He tosses a scroll across the table. You open it, your handwriting, your tone, but not your words. You look up, he grins. I've had scribes study your letters for months. I don't need you anymore. Then he says the words you feared most. She's dying. The world doesn't stop, but it slows. She's been weaker, paler, more tired. You saw the signs, but ignored them. Now you know. He sees your face, laughs again. Soon the throne will be mine in more than name. And when that day comes, he pauses. I want to see if you can still survive without her shadow to hide in. The next morning, her chamber is quiet. Too quiet. She's seated upright, but barely breathing. Her physician stands to the side, helpless. You kneel beside her. Her eyes flutter open. Lynn, she whispers. I'm here, you say. She smiles, or tries to. You were always more than what they saw. You grip her hand. Please don't. She squeezes faintly. You know what to do. Then she closes her eyes and exhales for the last time. There is no funeral. Not yet. The emperor delays it. For ceremonial reasons, he says. But everyone knows why. He wants to erase her legacy before the incense even fades. You're stripped of your duties the next day. No trial, no charges, just reassignment. You're told to report to the Palace of Outer Documents, a glorified archive. The message is clear. You are no longer needed. The guards assign to escort you don't meet your eyes, but the junior eunuchs do. They watch as you pass, some with pity, some with relief, a few with quiet satisfaction. You sit alone in the archive for days, surrounded by scrolls no one reads and memories no one wants. But you're not idle. You read everything. You study the edicts you once helped write. You trace your signature style through 100 decisions. You memorize the emperor's new scribes, how their tone mimics yours, but never quite matches. You learn their names, and then you begin writing again. Not orders, letters to allies, to those who still owe you favors, to those who fear what you might say if pushed too far. You do not threaten. You remind of debts, of secrets, of things they thought were buried. And slowly the silence around your name begins to shift. One night, a page arrives in your chamber. He says nothing, just hands you a scroll. You recognize the seal instantly. It's hers. Your hands shake as you unroll it. Inside, in her own handwriting dated months before her death, if this reaches you, then I am gone. If they try to erase you, remind them who wrote the story. Use their fear, turn it into ink. You do not need my shadow anymore. You are the blade, no signature, only her seal. Press deep and permanent. You burn the letter, but the words stay. No one says your name in the court anymore, but they say it outside, whispers, rumors, warnings. The dowager's ghost still lingers, the shadow writes again. He survived her, he won't survive him. They're wrong, you're not surviving. You're preparing. The emperor has consolidated power. He smiles more now, sits straighter on the dragon throne. He attends meetings, signs edicts, performs rituals like clockwork. But you know him, you saw the boy behind the crown. You watched him tremble when the dowager raised her voice. That boy still lives inside the man, and you know how to reach him. Your first move is simple. Absence. You disappear from public life. No more presence at court. No more bowed heads in the garden corridors. But in the silence you write edicts rewritten, tax policies cross-referenced and quietly corrected, memorials sent directly to ministers and signed unclaimed, but devastatingly accurate, and always in a hand that is familiar, yours, hers. They don't know who's sending them. They only know the emperor is being embarrassed, outmaneuvered, corrected. Ministers begin to pause again when they see your seal on a scroll, even unofficially, not because they fear you, because they remember what happened to those who forgot you once. You become a presence that can't be dismissed. And eventually, the emperor realizes what everyone else already knows. He may wear the robe, but someone else is still tailoring the pattern. One night you are summoned again, for the first time in months. His chamber is colder than you remember. Or maybe you are colder. He doesn't sit. He paces. I gave you everything, he says. You don't respond. You were nothing. A cast-off bow with no future. She made you something, and then you turned on me. Now you speak. Quietly, I never turned. I only remained. He laughs bitterly. You think the ministers follow you. No, you say they follow fear, and you've let them remember who they should be afraid of. He stops pacing. I could have you executed. You nod, yes, but you won't. Why not? You take a slow breath. Because if you kill me, you'll confirm what everyone already fears, that your throne still casts her shadow, that your enemies are not gone. They're whispering in your ear. He looks at you like he's seeing a ghost. Then what do you want? You walk to the table. Lay a sealed scroll down. This is my final draft, a list of reforms. No signature, no title. If you issue it, they'll believe you thought of them. You'll be praised, feared, respected. He stares at the scroll, doesn't touch it. And what do you get? He asks. You bow. Nothing. That is the point. The next morning, the scroll is read aloud in the hall of supreme harmony. It bears the emperor's seal, his voice, but it is your words. The ministers nod, some in approval, some in resignation, some in fear. You don't attend. You're watching from a hidden passage behind a silk screen, just as you did years ago when you first learned the rhythm of power, and you smile, just once, because the throne may be filled. But it still rests on your silence. Weeks pass, things calm, the court quiets. Your name fades again, this time willingly. You return to the archives, but not as exile, as camouflage. Young eunuchs now come to you for advice. Ministers quietly seek your edits before submitting their reports. Even generals send messengers to inquire on clarity of phrase. You no longer need to hold power. You've become something greater, a myth. One night, a junior scribe asks why you never took a title, never claimed rank, never stepped forward to take the seat everyone knows you could have filled. You smile. Because shadows don't belong in daylight, and neither do ghosts. Years later, In the margins of a foreign diplomat's report, you are mentioned only once the court remains stable, though an unseen hand appears to temper the emperor's worst impulses. We are advised not to inquire too deeply. They call him the orchid ghost. You don't correct the title. You simply fold the letter, place it in a drawer, and return to your writing. There's peace now. Not the kind celebrated in poems, but the kind that lets you breathe between storms. The Forbidden City is still a machine of power, still ruthless, still sharp, but it spins quieter now, smoother. Because you made it that way, and no one even knows. One evening, while walking through the garden you once cleaned as a boy, you find a magnolia tree. It's in bloom. You sit beneath it. No guards, no scrolls, no orders to give, just silence. And for the first time in years, you are not a tool, not a servant, not a ghost. You are simply you. And no one, not even the emperor, can take that away. Time passes, not quickly, not loudly, but inevitably. You lived through 3 emperors. The boy became a man, then a memory. His son now wears the robe, more diplomatic, less cruel. He nods at you when you pass, calls you Master Lin behind closed doors. A courtesy, a warning, a recognition. But you no longer want titles. You no longer need them. You rarely leave the inner court now. Your legs ache in winter, your eyes tire in the lamplight, but your hand still writes steady, graceful, practiced, and ministers still visit, quietly, always quietly. They bring scrolls, requests, confessions, and you send them away with answers. Sometimes advice, sometimes just silence. Even silence from you is a command. Once you were the blade, then the hand that held it. Now you are something rarer, the sheath. One morning you receive a gift, a painting, anonymous. A single orchid, inked in black on white parchment, delicate, curving toward shadow. No signature, no seal, but you know who sent it, or who at it made. The emperor, the new one. A message, a tribute, a quiet reminder that even he, on the throne, understands the architecture of power he inherited was built quietly, patiently by your hand. You smile, fold the painting. Place it in a drawer beside others. There are many. You've never written your memoirs, never confessed to your crimes, never claimed your victories. That's the curse of your role. History will name emperors, ministers, generals, but not you. You are the ink between the lines, and yet you've shaped more than any of them. You made wars vanish before they began. You turned rivals into ghosts. You kept the palace alive when it was eating itself from within. And now, as age settles over you like dust, you realize something profound. You don't need to be remembered, only understood. The younger eunuchs revere you. They call you Master Orchid behind your back. They copy your writing, mimic your movements. Ask foolish questions about the past. Sometimes you answer, sometimes you lie, not out of cruelty, out of mercy. They still believe the world is fair, that power is earned, that loyalty is repaid. You don't want to break them, not yet. Let the court do that. One day a girl arrives, 16, maybe 17, eyes too sharp for her own safety. She's a junior scribe's daughter or niece or orphan. No one is certain. She brings you a list of grain records to review. You correct to numbers, hand it back. She hesitates. Is it true? She whispers. that you once commanded the court with your brush. You look at her, really look. See something dangerous, something familiar. No, you say then softer. I only corrected grammar. She bows, confused, leaves. But she remember that night. You sit by your window, watching the wind scatter magnolia petals across the stones. You wonder if she becomes something, a shadow, a ghost, a weapon. You hope not. You hope she finds a way to remain herself. You fall ill in spring, nothing dramatic, just tired. Weary in the way the mountains must feel after centuries of holding up the sky. The physicians come, they fuss, they bow. You send them away, you write 2 letters. One is short, a list of names. Men you trust, eunuchs, clerks, scribes, you don't seal it. Let the emperor decide what to do. The second letter is longer. A farewell, not addressed to anyone. Not signed, just ink, carefully poured into the space between memory and truth. A week later, your breathing falters. You lie on a mat beneath an open window. The plum blossoms are just beginning to bloom. A young eunuch sits beside you, reading a poem you once copied from the dowager's collection. You close your eyes, and in that final moment, you don't see emperors or ministers or seals or blood. You see silk, steam, a boy kneeling beside a basin, hands raw, eyes wide. You see who you were before they gave you a name that wasn't yours, and you smile. You are buried quietly. No state funeral, no monument, but the emperor sends white orchids to the temple every spring. And a century later, a scholar compiling court record stumbles across dozens of edicts written in a hand that does not match any official signature. He makes a note. The tone suggests a single author, consistent, elegant. Though unnamed, this scribe likely influenced major decisions of state. And in the margins, someone else writes, perhaps the orchid ghost. Somewhere in the archives, there is still a painting, one black orchid, no signature, just shadow.